A father searches his own basement on the morning after Christmas and finds his 6-year-old daughter's body in a small storage room he'd already checked hours earlier. She's been strangled with a garrote made from her mother's paintbrush, her skull fractured, duct tape over her mouth. Upstairs, police are treating the house as a kidnapping scene because a ransom note demanding $118,000 was found on the staircase that morning. But there's no kidnapping. JonBenét Ramsey is dead in her own home, and what follows is one of the most bundled investigations in American law enforcement history, a media circus that destroys a family's reputation, and a mystery that remains unsolved nearly 30 years later. The question isn't just who killed JonBenét Ramsey. It's why, after decades of investigation, DNA evidence, and relentless public scrutiny, we still don't have an answer. New DNA technology and a complete re-examination of the evidence are finally bringing fresh perspectives to a case that has haunted America since 1996, but the truth remains frustratingly out of reach. Welcome back to Crime Scout, True Stories. The JonBenét Ramsey case has everything that makes a mystery endure: a beautiful child, a wealthy family, a bizarre ransom note, and enough investigative failures to fuel conspiracy theories for generations. Today, we're examining what we actually know, what the recent developments mean, and whether we'll ever get justice for JonBenét. December 26, 1996, started as a normal post-Christmas morning for the Ramsey family in Boulder, Colorado. John Ramsey was a successful businessman, CEO of a computer services company. His wife Patsy was a former beauty queen, Miss West Virginia in 1977. They had 2 children still at home, 9-year-old Burke and 6-year-old JonBenét, a child beauty pageant participant who'd won multiple titles. The family had attended a Christmas party the night before, come home around 9 p.m., and everyone went to bed. The plan was to wake early and fly to their vacation home in Michigan. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy called 911 in a panic. She'd found a ransom note on the spiral staircase demanding $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. The note was extraordinarily long, 2.5 pages, handwritten on paper from a notepad inside the Ramsey home. It claimed to be from a small foreign faction and threatened to kill JonBenét if the family contacted police or didn't follow exact instructions for delivering the ransom. Despite the note's warnings, Patsy immediately called 911, which is exactly what any parent would do, but it would later be used to suggest the note was fake. Police arrived within minutes, but the first critical mistakes happened immediately. Officers didn't secure the house as a crime scene. They allowed John Ramsey, Patsy, and their friends who arrived to support them to move freely throughout the house. Potential evidence was contaminated. The ransom note was handled by multiple people. The house should have been treated as a kidnapping scene or a crime scene, but it was treated as neither and both simultaneously. Hours passed with police waiting for a ransom call that never came. At around 1 p.m., Detective Linda Arndt asked John Ramsey and his friend Fleet White to search the house again for anything unusual. John went to the basement, the same basement he'd checked earlier that morning, and this time opened the door to a small storage room. He found JonBenét's body covered with a white blanket. He immediately picked her up and carried her upstairs, destroying any positional evidence and contaminating the crime scene further. JonBenét had duct tape over her mouth, a cord tied around her neck fashioned into a garrote using a broken paintbrush handle, and her wrists were loosely bound. An autopsy would later reveal she'd suffered a massive skull fracture and had been strangled. The medical examiner determined she died from asphyxiation combined with cranial trauma. The Boulder Police Department immediately focused on the family. This was understandable from an investigative standpoint, as statistically, children are most often harmed by family members. But the focus became tunnel vision. Police believe the ransom note was staged, written by someone in the house to make a murder look like a kidnapping gone wrong. They believe someone in the family, either Patsy or John, had killed JonBenét, possibly accidentally, and staged an elaborate cover-up. Burke, who was 9 at the time, was also considered by some investigators, though he was questioned and eventually cleared. The ransom note became a focal point of suspicion. It was unusually long. Most ransom notes are brief and to the point. The $118,000 demand was oddly specific and close to the amount of John's recent bonus. The note was written on Patsy's notepad with her pen, which was returned to its place in the kitchen. A practice note was also found, suggesting the writer had made a draft first. Who breaks into a house to kidnap a child but takes time to write a 2.5-page ransom note with a practice version? Handwriting experts were divided. Some couldn't rule out Patsy as the author, others excluded her entirely. The crime scene evidence was contradictory. An unidentified boot print was found near JonBenét's body. A basement window was broken with a suitcase positioned beneath it, suggesting possible entry or exit. But there was no clear evidence of forced entry elsewhere. Some evidence suggested an intruder, but other evidence suggested familiarity with the house. The garrote was sophisticated, not something you'd expect from a parent in a panic, but it was made from Patsy's paintbrush from her hobby supplies in the basement. The media coverage was relentless and damaging. The tabloid press convicted the Ramseys in the court of public opinion long before any charges were filed. Patsy's 911 call was analyzed endlessly, with some claiming they could hear Burke's voice in the background even though Patsy said he was asleep. Videos of JonBenét performing in beauty pageants were played repeatedly, with commentary suggesting the parents had sexualized their daughter and created an environment that led to her death. The Ramseys were criticized for hiring lawyers and public relations experts immediately, which guilty people do, but so do innocent wealthy people facing a media firestorm. In 1999, a grand jury heard the case for over a year. In a stunning development that wasn't revealed publicly until 2013, the grand jury voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey not for murder, but for child abuse resulting in death and being accessories to a crime. However, the district attorney, Alex Hunter, refused to sign the indictment, stating there wasn't sufficient evidence to prosecute beyond a reasonable doubt. This extraordinary decision meant the indictment was sealed, and the public was told no charges were filed due to insufficient evidence, which was technically true but deeply misleading. Then came the DNA evidence. DNA was found in JonBenét's underwear and under her fingernails that didn't match any Ramsey family member. In 2008, New Touch DNA technology allowed for more sophisticated analysis. The DNA profile was uploaded to CODIS, the National DNA Database, but no matches were found. Based on this DNA evidence, the Boulder District Attorney at the time, Mary Lacey, sent the Ramsey family a letter officially apologizing and stating they were cleared of any involvement in JonBenét's death. This was controversial because some investigators believe the DNA could have been from contamination or from the manufacturing process of the clothing. John Ramsey has spent decades trying to clear his family's name. Patsy died of ovarian cancer in 2006, never seeing her family officially exonerated and never knowing who killed her daughter. Burke has sued multiple media organizations for defamation, settling some cases and winning others. He's maintained he had nothing to do with his sister's death. In recent years, new attention has focused on the case. In 2016, the 20th anniversary brought renewed media coverage. In 2022, the Boulder Police Department announced they were partnering with outside agencies to review the case with fresh eyes and new technology. Advanced DNA analysis, specifically genetic genealogy, the same technique that caught the Golden State Killer, is being applied to the evidence. This technology can potentially identify suspects through familial DNA in genealogy databases even if the suspect's own DNA isn't in the system. Several intruder theories have been proposed over the years. One focuses on a man who attended the Ramseys' Christmas party and would have known the layout of the house. Another looks at a known sexual predator who lived nearby and had bragged about hurting a child. A former suspect, John Mark Carr, even confessed to the killing in 2006, but his DNA didn't match and his confession was proven false. The intruder theory requires believing someone entered the house, spent considerable time there writing a ransom note, and assaulting JonBenét, killed her, and left without leaving definitive evidence, all while the family slept upstairs. The case has been hampered from the beginning by investigative failures. The crime scene wasn't properly secured. Evidence was contaminated. The police department and the district attorney's office had conflicts over the direction of the investigation. Leads weren't followed up adequately. The media circus made objective investigation nearly impossible. And the focus on the family, while understandable, may have prevented investigators from pursuing other suspects aggressively enough. This has been Crime Scout, True Stories. Nearly 30 years after JonBenét Ramsey's death, her murder remains unsolved, her family's reputation remains tarnished by suspicion, and justice remains elusive. But new DNA technology offers hope that what couldn't be solved in 1996 might finally be answered in 2024. Subscribe for updates on this case and others where science and persistence continue the fight for truth.